armies.
Hey, what's up YouTube? Angelson here, bringing you a battle on Slumbering Settlement, and my opponent I believe is Ron San, who is round 50 on the rankings ladder. And right at the start of this battle, I see the timer, or not the timer, but the battle unit meter, and I was like, oh great, I'm fighting an Ashigaru army. So I actually mentioned something in the chat to him. I was like, oh, how original, another Ashigaru army. To which he responded, yeah, it's a really great build, I'd highly recommend it. I was like, yeah, it's not that great, it's not original. I mean, so many of the top tier players are using the same composition of these Ashigaru based armies. And I'm sorry, but it's not unique, it doesn't set you apart as a player, it means you can do what everybody else is doing. Which, I don't know, if that's what you enjoy, sure, why not. But my take on it is, a lot of players like, well, it's not loan spam, I have a balanced army. Okay, cool. So you have, between 6 to 8, well veteran loanswords, which cost you practically nothing. But you can also afford to bring, a good skirmishing force and heavy cav if you want. I mean, you're playing on a large funds battle on an ultra funds level against an opponent that more than likely brought a large funds battle, battle composition. So I don't know, it's not original, it's not different, you aren't setting yourself apart. It just means that you can conform to what everyone else is doing. And that is not how new strategies and new ways of playing are developed. So as you can see, I have a pretty balanced build. I have 2 boat warrior monks, and up front with them I have a Naginata Sam and then my matchlock warrior monks. Behind them, I have I have 4 units of Katana Sam. 2 are veteran, 2 are vanilla, and then I have a Naginata Warrior Monk, as well as 2 Yari Sams, which proved to be pretty futile in this battle, because this guy didn't bring any cav. But luckily I have these 2 units of Great Guard. I have them hidden in this forest right now, because I'm really trying to decide how I'm going to fight this guy. I don't want to put him in the forest, because it'll totally strip my bow warrior monks of their any kind of ability they have to skirmish with his army. He has 3 units of pretty well veteran bow Ashigaru. He also has 3 units of matchlock Ashigaru directly behind them, and then I believe it's 13 or 14 units of loanswords. So that in fact is a loansword spam army. I don't care, there's no way around it, it's a loansword spam. And if you have loanswords and a balanced build, then it's an Ashigaru spam army. Same thing. I mean, everybody knows what you're doing. So anyways, I decided to maneuver my Great Guard around and see if I can find any weaknesses, in his formation or in his strategy that I could exploit with my Great Guard. Which, even though he doesn't have any spears in his army, those loanswords, you get 2 or 3 units on 1 cav and it'll be done for. They will chew up cav. Luckily I get them out of matchlock range before he's able to really do any damage to him. But what my cav allows me to do is get my bow warrior monks in position and set up to start firing shots and kiting him back, but also keep him distracted so he doesn't do a full-on rush. And you can see my opponent's not an idiot. He knows he has bow Ashigaru and he really can't engage my bow warrior monks. So what I gotta try to do in this battle is just kite him back. I want to get him in the open. And this is what I was looking at. This is my target goal, to get my army set up in these trees, because this would put him in this whole wide open area. Now if he was smarter, he could have maneuvered around and entered from this end of the forest, but luckily he took the wide open path. So you can see I'm still trying to find gaps in his formation where I can get my Great Guard in and maybe do some damage to his ranged units or matchlocks. But after that little skirmish, I lost, what's that, 12 plus another 6, 18 of my Great Guards. And those are the 1 unit I really cannot afford to lose this early on. So right now I just decide to hold them back, try not to engage them in any fights, but make it appear as though I am. So now he sees I'm trying to engage his bow Ashigaru, and you know, my bow warrior monks will tear these guys up in a heartbeat, but I don't want to give him the chance to, you know, do any type of skirmishing combat with my bow warrior monks. So really I just got to keep on kiting back. And I was hoping maybe he would drag them up here, you know, a little ways where I could get to him with my cav, but you see he's a smart player, he's not going to do that. But he is going to go for this workshop, which I honestly had no chance of taking, you know, from the start of this battle. I see him making his retreat again, and obviously the feint with my cav is not going to work. He's already getting his matchlock set up. So now I just got to try to get my bow warrior monks pushed out again. Try to let them get some, you know, effective shots downrange, and provoke him into coming out of that tree line again. And it appears, is he dismounted? Can't tell. Yeah, he has dismounted his general as well, it looks like. Okay, he's remounting back up. So I guess he tried to use stand and fight there, which was funny because, you know, later on in the fight, I know he's a bow general, but he does have stand and fight as well. Well, you'll see. I'm not going to go into it right now. I'll show you later. But yeah, this guy kept on harping how he was a bow general later on in the fight. So you can see him trying to advance again. So I'm just going to let my bow warrior monk sit here. You know, try to get off as many shots as I can on his matchlocks and his other ranged units, while taunting him with my cav. But I gotta be careful. As soon as those matchlocks start to get set up, just move the cav back, move him out of the way. And what this will do is, you know, prevent him from moving forward any faster, and give my, you know, my bow warrior monks a chance to move back and, you know, maybe get set up and fire a few more shots off into his formation. But you can see they aren't really doing anything too effective right now. That's the most damage they've done on this bow Ashigaru unit right here. So now my opponent starts to move back again. You know, look at this battle meter. Even though he has these huge numbers on me, he's playing very timidly. And you know, that is one thing I cannot stand. If you're gonna bring an Ashigaru spam army to a fight, and you know, have double or more than double your opponent's numbers, don't play timid. Don't play weak. I mean, you can't just sit back and expect your opponent to attack you when you have the advantage. Maybe if your opponent's an idiot, he will. So I guess that is, you know, a feasible strategy. So here we go again with the back and forth skirmishing. Just trying to get more shots off. Just not really getting his, you know, giving his bow Ashigaru a chance to get any shots off on my guys. And all the time hoping that he'll expose his ranged units. He'll lose their micro, but this guy's not going to do that. So let me go ahead and fast forward just a little bit, because this is a particularly long battle. I want to get in that 15 minutes. So, you know, this is the kind of strategy you got to adopt when you're playing these armies, and you do have a ranged build, you know, with a decent skirmishing ability. You just really want to maximize, you know, your chance to let your bow warrior monks and, you know, everybody get their shots off and kill as many units as possible. So here he goes to advance his main army again. And really now I'm just trying to get these guys set up in the trees to where I don't have to worry about his Ashigarus shooting my men up. And I'm holding my Grey Guard back for now as well, because you can see he's got his units positioned, you know, with his matchlocks facing outward. So if my Grey Guard even try to run through here, you know, they're gonna get shot up in a heartbeat. But fortunately I do get my bow warrior monks set up in these trees. And right now they're free firing, but then when I notice he's starting to close in, I switch their targets to the matchlocks. Because that's probably like one of my, you know, second biggest threats, besides getting overwhelmed by all of these loanswords. And he's got some vanilla ones, but he also has some, you know, moderately upgraded ones as well. But once these matchlocks start to close in, I know that he's going to start shooting at my bow warrior monks, so I gotta pull these guys back. And I'm also waiting to use my general abilities. I don't want to, you know, waste my Inspire yet, or, you know, my Rally or Stand and Fight. But now that I see that he's starting to expose some of these units, I decided to go ahead and bring my Great Guard in, because his matchlocks are not facing the right way. And I pushed my Naginata Sams up as well. Kind of act like a tank unit. sorry, it's a little confusing with all these trees to actually see what's happening in this battle. But this one unit of matchlocks was exposed, so I decided to go in for a quick charge with my cav. And you can see this other unit is clearly exposed. He hasn't advanced his sword units yet to intercept, so my guys are actually going to intercept these matchlocks, which is pretty good. Sorry, I'm losing my voice a little bit for some reason. Okay, so my opponent was harping about, oh, I'm a bow general, why are you shooting me with your matchlocks? Okay, dude, you're in stand and fight right now. I'm sorry, but full-fledged bow general is not going to go to stand and fight. So that's why I shot you with your with my matchlocks, because you have, 13 or 14 loansword units, which my army cannot fight, and you put your general and stand and fight directly in front of my matchlocks. Of course he's going to die. So right now what I'm trying to do is get his lines engaged with my melee, and that way I can use my cav kind of as a hammer and anvil and start getting these guys to rout. That's the single fastest way to get any unit to rout. Hammer and anvil attacks with your cav. But then I see his matchlocks getting set up, and I realize, once again, I gotta take care of these guys. So I have to send my cav in to distract his matchlocks and tie them up. As you can see, I'm not really doing too well in this infantry battle, and he's starting to chase down my Ashigaru or my matchlock units. Luckily, I have these 2 units of Yari Sams back here. I'll be able to bring in a melee just to hold his forces up to let my matchlocks, do some more damage. And here I managed to pop off a war cry as well on some of his units, which, it wasn't too effective, but I think it, helped me out with what was left of my cav to cause this chain rout. So fortunately, my Yari Sams do finally start to advance. I've popped my rally, and right now I'm just trying to, put arrows into as many units as I can and get my cav in his rear and in his flank to get him to rout. It was a pretty close battle, and it involved a lot of micro, trying to maneuver my units back and keep them constantly moving to keep his army on the move. And really I just got lucky when he decided to put his general and stand and fight right in front of my matchlocks. So this is how, well, I'm not gonna say this is how you do it every time, but this is one way to beat these Ashigaru spam builds. Really, you want to be crafty with your matchlocks, and you got to kill that general, hands down. And even then, sometimes it's not enough to win these fights. I've had fights against these Ashigaru spam armies where I've killed the general, and they still don't rout, or by that time my units are just so tired that they turn around and start routing. So sometimes you just really need to step back, plan out your attack and what you're going to do. And then, once you get that plan formulated, just stick to it. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I certainly enjoyed beating this army. Actually, I really enjoyed it. And as you can tell, this fight's pretty much over. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the stats. Alright, so here's the results for that battle. You can see I deployed 1,350 units, and my opponent deployed, well, twice my number, 2,700, with 978 losses and 1,832 kills. Nearly double my deaths. So all in all, it was a good battle. You can see my Great Guard really cleaned up, my Bow Warrior Monks, then my Katana Sands and my Matchlock Warrior Monks. Hopefully you saw one good strategy to being these massive Ashigaru armies, and hope you guys enjoyed. See you next time.